Algebra 2, Lesson 23, Graphical Solutions. So these are going to test your artwork skills. We'll be going to the practice right before the lesson. It tells us to solve this system by graphing and check the solution by using substitution or elimination. Quick tip, substitution is the fastest way to check the solution. I wouldn't try elimination. But we'll get started with the problem. So by your artistic skills, you either need to buy graph paper or get a ruler and draw graphs the way that I do. They give us these two equations, and then we have to figure out what their solution is. Their solution being the point where the two lines meet. So we'll start by graphing this first line. I'm going to use slope-intercept method because it is the fastest. So if I look at this line, I see that the y-intercept is positive 1. So we'll make that line red, and we'll make this line blue. So if I go to my graph at positive 1, I'll go ahead and put the first point as my y-intercept. And then it gives me a slope of 2, which means as a fraction, the slope, or the m, would equal 2 over 1. So that's a rise of 2 with a run of 1. So every time I go up 2, I go over 1, and I've got a point. Or I could do the opposite. I could drop 2, go over 1, and I've got another point. From there, I'm going to go ahead and finish drawing the line. And that's my first line. The second line, or the blue line, is actually really easy. They tell us that x is equal to negative 1. There's no y in it, so x is a constant, or a line that doesn't touch the y-axis. So all we have to do there is go to negative 1 on the x-axis and draw our line perpendicular to the x-axis. That's our second line. Now our solution seems to be floating in space, like right here. So that looks really close to negative 1, negative 1. And since x can never not be negative 1, I'm going to go ahead and guess that that might be where it's at, because I think I drew my dot a little off here, because I was supposed to drop 1, 2, go over 1. Yeah, I'm going to guess and say that's supposed to be negative 1, negative 1. And this is why we check our answer with substitution, because we're not great artists. I don't know, actually maybe some of you are. I'm not. So if we have the possible solution of negative 1, negative 1, all we do is we take that and we plug it into this one of these equations. Well, it works for the bottom one easy, but let's try it in the top one. So if we have negative 1 equals negative 1 times 2 plus 1. Does that work? Well, negative 1 times 2 gives me negative 2. Negative 2 plus 1 gives me negative 1, and negative 1 is equal to negative 1. So that means that this point is correct, and it checks out. And that's it. That's all there is to it. So make sure you graph your lines as best you can. When you're close to the area, it's probably the safest bet to round to a whole number. If the whole number doesn't work, it's probably a half number. And then substitute to check your answer.